Hi everyone, and welcome back to another tutorial. In this video, I'm going to show you how to upload lookbook template into your SharePoint website using PnP PowerShell. So for those of you who are doing development work for SharePoint and have arrived at this page and are trying to add the tenant and realize that the page is under maintenance. Therefore, you can't upload the template from the online service and would like to still upload the template from the GitHub repository using PnP PowerShell, then this is the video for you. So this is a brand new machine without PowerShell, Node.js, Git installed. So we don't really need Node.js or Visual Code for this video. The main component we need is just Git and PowerShell. I'll show you how to clone the Git repository and then run through how to quickly create a site in your development SharePoint in preparation for the upload, and then run through the PowerShell command to make sure that we have the right PowerShell, we have the right PnP shell versions, and then we go through the couple of simple steps to upload the PnP shell using the invoke PnP site template. So with that, let's hop over to getting Git ready. So what you need to do first is to get the Git download. You don't really need Git download for this tutorial as well, but since you will be using the repository and hopefully you'll be using Git to do your development work, so it's always good to just download the Git application, right? So you can do the download through PowerShell, the winget tools, or even there are get command in PowerShell that allows you to download Git. However, doing that, you will need to import the modules, and if the import doesn't really work properly, you then need to manually set your alias, right? So it takes a bit more time. However, the easier way, especially when you're in Windows environment, is to just download the .exe installer. Okay, once it's downloaded, just open up the .exe. Okay, you have to allow the application to run. Installing Git is relatively easy, right? We'll select all the default option. Just want to add a uh, icon on the desktop. The rest we can keep it as default, right? If you have Visual Studio or Atom or any of the other code editor, you can choose it from here, right? Even Notepad++. However, since this is pretty new, there isn't any much code editor except for Notepad. So we're going to leave it as using Vim as the default editor, right? We'll let Git decides how it handles repository for master and branch forking, right? The important thing you need to take note is to make sure you select this uh, Git from command line and also from third-party software if you are planning to use the command prompt as well as PowerShell. Right? So once that's done, click next. We use default OpenSSH, the OpenSSL library. We'll use the checkout Windows style for the Windows environment. We'll keep the default terminal. And then for now, we'll just use the fast forward or merge for the Git pull, right? So it basically allows you to just download when possible the branch. If you already have the base repository or the master repository downloaded, it will then just pull the current branch available. Okay, not going to use any credential helper for this case, and then enable file system caching, and that's it, right? That's all you need to do for the Git setup. You can go in and change the preference after the installation if you decide that you want to do something different or you have a different setup. But for this tutorial, this is all you need to do. Done. Next, I have a PowerShell pre-opened before the installation, so you'll see that it doesn't recognize, right? So I'm not sure whether by doing is .profile, does it reload the, okay, so it seems that it doesn't upload the default PowerShell script, right? So what we're gonna do is to close PowerShell and then relaunch PowerShell. Okay, this will help to activate the changes done. So now if we type git, right, again, you'll see that it's installed. The mapping in terms of the commands are done properly, right, when you install the git through the window installer. So once that's done, what we'll do is to download the repository for the lookbook. So you can come here and click on the GitHub repository or do a search for it, right? It'll bring you to the spdev provisioning templates. So on the left here in the code button, right? So for those of you who are new or might not be too familiar with Git, this is where you need to go to and then select HTTPS for now is fine, right? And click on copy the link that you want to clone the provisioning templates from. So once that's done, head back to PowerShell. One of the things I like to do is to create a folder in my C drive or the root directory, right, for easy maneuvering. So for demo, right, I like to do uh, git clone, right? So, I usually clone my stuff into this folder. Sorry, you need to make a directory called, give it a name, right? You could name it any name, right? So for me, I like to give it something that I can relate to, right? Go into git clone, clear the screen, and then issue the command git clone followed by paste in the URL that you copied from the website earlier, right? So and then click enter. So what it does, it will create a folder called spdev provisioning templates, and you'll start its cloning process. Usually it takes a little bit longer, right? As I think the bandwidth are being throttled when you try to download from the Git repository. We'll let it run and come back or fast forward this, and we can come back and continue the next step. Okay, great. We're done, right? There was a failure in between, connection issue, but the second reload looks good. So let's take a quick look at the directory structure. Okay, we can see that the repository has been downloaded, site system tenant, right? If we go back to the Git hub web page, I can see that we have downloaded the files and folders. Okay, so that's pretty much what you need for the Git part of things. Next, let's go to the next step, which is, quickly show you how to create a SharePoint site so that you can upload the templates, right? If you follow the official videos, they talk about creating app catalogs and stuff, right? So you can do that as well. However, to make it easy for you to jumpstart, and get a feel of how you upload the template, I'll skip that app catalog creation portion. We'll go to the creation of the SharePoint website. Okay, so first, log into your Microsoft Office, right? And then next, what you want to do is to click on the admin icon over here. Okay, once you're in there, click on Show All, and then select SharePoint, right? Click on it. You'll bring you to the SharePoint website. Okay, so one important thing to take note, what you see here, cybersecurity Draco, this is my domain, right? And it's also my SharePoint tenant, right? So to access SharePoint directly, you just need to type cybersecuritydraco.sharepoint.com, right? To get to the admin page, you just need to uh, type your domain without the .com-admin.sharepoint.com. It will bring you to the admin page over here. Now, what you want to do is next is to go to active site. Click on active site. There are a lot of sites that I've created for development and testing and demo purposes. So what you want to do is to go to create and create a new site. Okay, select either a team site or communication site. I believe team site is a classic site and then communication site is the modern site. You can click on learn more to understand about the site. So we're going to try and create a modern site called get communication site, right? And we give you a site name. I'm going to call it AAA demo site, right? So I will select the owner to the site, right? And then click on finish. So this is a site owner, right? So remember, we'll click on finish. The user that you use this, of course, has to be a administrator account. Okay, once that is done, you will see that the AA demo site is being created, right? You can click on the URL. It will bring you to the SharePoint website itself. As you can see, like I mentioned, right, the website, SharePoint website is your domain, cybersecurity Draco in my case, .sharepoint.com slides, and then followed by the AAA demo site. Okay, so once that is done, okay, remember to close the site, right? As keeping the site open might create some problems when you're uploading, especially if you have, open up some resources, right? So to make it easy, just close the demo site, right? And then hop back to PowerShell. So that is how you create a testing site, right? For you to upload the templates. Once back in PowerShell, okay, the next thing we need to do is to, do a quick check to make sure that we have the right versions. So a couple of things to check is we need to check what is the PowerShell get version, right? So do a get package provider search for PowerShell. Okay, we can see that the current version is 1.0.0.1. Recommended version is anything that is 2.2.5 and above, right? So I'll show you how to install the PowerShell get command later. The next thing we want to check in conjunction is to also check the nuggets, right? So the to see whether we have the version of the nuggets looks okay. 2.8 looks all right. Okay, so what we need to do is to update the PowerShell get package, right? So we can issue the command. Okay, sorry, we need to install the NuGet first, and then next we will install the PowerShell get package, right? Okay, once that is done, you will see that we have installed at least version 2.2.5 for PowerShell. We're ready to install the PnP PowerShell version, right? So, okay, the command is to install the module pnp.powershell. Okay, and then click. Okay, so I have installed PowerShell already. So it prompts the error. So let's just check. Okay, let's do a quick check. Let's try to import. Okay, seems that I might not have the permission. So in this command get execution policy list is to check whether I have the execution right? So as you can see, the problem is that current user has an undefined execution policies, which means that I can't really execute the scripts to install, import the necessary module, right? So do take note of that. This is a very common problem for new machine, right? So for those that who have been doing development work, you won't face this issue, right? So good to just do a quick check to get the execution policies and make sure that your execution policies is probably either in restricted or remote sign, right? That will allow you to execute the command or the PowerShell script. Okay, once that's done, okay, let's do this. Okay, so what we want to do is to change the execution policy, right, by doing a set execution policies for the current user, right, to remote sign. So once we do that, the user will have the permission to execute the policies because it's been sort of trusted, right, by having remotely signed. Okay, so once that is done, let's just do a quick validation. You can see that current user is remote sign, right? So now next, let's issue the command a PnP PowerShell. So this really allows you to install, non-standard packages because PnP.PowerShell, is a third party or open source development. So when you try to do uh, installations of, packages that are not signed or bundled with PowerShell, right? You need to make sure that your current user has the necessary rights to execute, right? A little bit of security deep dive over there if you want to understand exactly what rights, access, control, signature, uh, is a very long and detailed topic for a future video. Okay, once that is done, we'll import the PowerShell module, right? So that it will load every time we close and open up the PowerShell. Okay, so that's pretty much the installation and making sure that the necessary versions is there, right? So once that is done, we are ready to register the PnP PowerShell app into Azure so that we give the PowerShell script permission to execute commands, to read write, to do the read write into the Azure tenant. In our case, SharePoint and using Graph API. Right. So let's go ahead and register the tenant. Okay. So default, right? When you want to register the tenant, you will need to specify the Azure tenant that you want to register the application to. right? So the command is registered PnP Azure app, right? Application name, you need to give it a unique name. Since this is not the first time I'm registering, uh, I will need to change it to something else, right? So I'm going to name my application PnP PowerShell 4, right? For the tenant, for my development site, right, it's called cybersecuritydraco.com. I'm almost at my end of the uh, M365 subscription, so I might not get renewed. So for those of you who are trying to check out my SharePoint without permission, you might not be able to reach it in a short time, right? So, but more importantly, this is the way to register your tenant, the PowerShell app, right? To be able to execute SharePoint control, and then also the graph application uh, control, right? So you might change the control respectively for a production environment. However, for dev environment, not so critical, right? Hopefully you keep your development environment separate from your production environment, and so that you reduce the risk of exposing uh, your organization to cyber criminal, right? So once this is done, what we're going to do is to copy this, right, and paste it into the virtual machine. Oops. Okay, so let's hit enter. Okay, so you need to key in your credential, an administrator credential, to allow, right, the application to be added into Azure. So this is a pretty standard way of integration with Azure. You always need to key in your credential. Okay, going to mask off the admin name. Okay, the good thing about okay, you can see that when you do the register, they will actually check whether if the name exists, right? If the name exists, you will see that it will be unsuccessful. So since it's a unique new name for us, you can see that it is successfully um, the command has successfully executed, right? And then we'll wait for the script to run and update your Azure instance. You will be prompted again in a short while to give the permission, right? Okay, so once the app finish has finished its creation, right? What your prompt you is to sign in again. It's an interesting design, right? And then it will prompt you to review the permission that the registration process is requesting, right? So we have requested full control to the SharePoint site. We allow read and write to all the groups in SharePoint, right? And allowing signing in and reading user profile, right? So this is some of the permissions that is required to upload and to do SharePoint development work. So you might tweak this read and writes and access based on how you allow your team to develop and access SharePoint, right? But for tutorial wise, we've given the full access, right? Okay, so once you finish or you accept the permission, you should see that a client ID is being assigned. The certificates are being generated, right? For communications purposes, and you might need all some of this certificate in the future for authentication, communications, and stuff, right? So you can copy and save it somewhere. Since this is a development environment that I'm going to tear down after this video, or the site, I'm going to remove the site, so I'm not going to mask off this part. Okay, so once that is done, you have successfully registered the PowerShell application into Azure. The next, what you need to do is to connect to your SharePoint tenant, right? Or the SharePoint instance in Azure. So the command is connect PnP online, followed by the URL. So remember the SharePoint name is your domain, followed by sharepoint.com. And then the sites we are going to is under sites. So if you cannot remember the sites, you can always go back to your SharePoint admin page where you have created the SharePoint site and check out, right? So if I don't recall wrongly, it's called Triple A. Okay, can't remember. Good news is go back, Triple A demo site, right? So let's hit back there. Okay, specify the authentication or method, right? So for our case, interactive is easier, right? Okay, select the user, admin user, key in the password. Okay, you will see that it's requesting for the PnP management shell, which allows you to do a lot more things, right? So that's where PnP shell is connecting to Azure, requesting for permission for dev environment. I'm going to accept it. Okay, you need to accept the permission before you can do the final upload. So once you have granted the permission, what you need to do is to then select a template, right? So you can select any of the templates that you are interested in, right? So you need to look through the okay, we're gonna try, let's try retail operation. Okay, so if you want to look at what is the layout, you can always open up your for Windows, you can always go to your file and folders and take a look at the picture, right? So choose the tenant that you want, right? For me, I like to be inside the folder so that I reduce some of my typing. Right, so what I do is to invoke -PnP site template and then specify the path, right? As the path denotes, right? You can either key in the whole path or you can be like me, just do a quick tap to the uh, retail operations.pnp. So what you want to make sure is in this scenario, select the PnP file, right? You can always, the invoke PnP site templates works with XML, the dynamic SharePoint packages, etc. Right? So for uploading of the lookbook templates from GitHub into your SharePoint, use the .pnp extension, right, as the template, and then click on enter. Okay, it seems that there's some error with the permission. Let's try and reconnect again. Seems to be okay. There's no problem with the login. Can't seem to upload. Okay, let's try to relaunch PowerShell. Okay, let me try and relogin. Oops, wrong file directory. Let's go to the right directory. Okay, now let's try to upload the template again. Okay, now it seems to be working. Okay, the uploading of the template seems to be happening. It takes some time. I'll fast forward this and come back when it is done. Okay, seems that we have finished the uploading of the templates. Let's hop back to the SharePoint website. All right, so let's click on the demo website. You should see that the template has now changed. Right, green color. We see the drone, the product training site, etc. Right, so this is how you upload the templates from the lookbook into your SharePoint site using the PnP shell. Hope this video has been useful. Do take care and stay safe.